I just think what I would say about the franchising world is the other misconception, the biggest misconception is just how many different business models there are. It's just kind of like you don't know what other cars there are until you drive a certain model of a car. And ever since I've been in this industry, I've kind of been blown away at all these things that are franchised.
Welcome back to The Pursuit of Purpose. My name is Chris Kiefer, and I am here today with Adam Goldman, who is a franchise consultant with franchisecoach.net. Adam, thanks so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me, Chris.
So, franchise consultant, you're an experienced investor, an entrepreneur. You've run a franchise yourself, and you call yourself a master franchisor. So tell us a little bit about you and what you provide.
So I've been in the franchising industry now for 14 years. I started out as something called a master franchisor for a concept called Vanguard Cleaning. That's something where you own the rights to a region and people decide to invest as franchisees or unit franchisees underneath you at that region. So that's what the term master franchisor means. And then what I've been doing over the past 7 years is I had an unsolicited offer with my previous company, Vanguard. I have my own business in which I'm here to help people that want to become franchisees and match make them with brands that are in 75 different industries.
So you are basically like someone comes to you and says, "Hey, I want to get out of corporate America. Looking for something else." And you would be like, "Whoa, what do you like to do? Tell me about yourself. What are your skill sets?" And then you kind of help them decide which franchises based on their geographic, their revenue, or cash they're bringing to the table, which one makes the most sense.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I do.
Okay. So give me, I'm always curious, what is the like stereotypical franchisee person or like the demographics look like? I'm sure there's a variety, but what's like a common person that you find yourself talking to?
They have to be from corporate America, or they typically are from corporate America. They're between the ages of 30 and 60, typically male. Spouse sometimes is involved as well. And they're the kind of person that have acumen, but aren't necessarily entrepreneurial by nature. So it's kind of like starting a business with training wheels.
Mm. So they have they're not the like I dropped out of college entrepreneur yet, but they've been in the business, they've seen well-run companies, they've been managers, they manage people, and they just are wanting to have more ownership in the thing they're investing their energy in.
That sounds very accurate of the kind of people that are franchisees.
So what would you say is like the like some common myths when that you come across in franchising?
One of the biggest myths is people think it's only related to food, right? They think McDonald's, they think French fries, they think owner operator in the back. I work with brands in 75 different industries. I'd say the other misconception that I have, Chris, is that people, when they think of franchising, they think, oh my gosh, I have to quit my job. A lot of people that come to me, they are looking for an exit plan from corporate America, meaning that they could potentially have their spouse start out full time in the business. Sometimes I have brands that are actually manager run businesses or semi absentee, where they can keep their day job and then have the manager run the business.
Mm. So in that situation, what is the if it can be a semi-absentee like franchise, why does the corporate like the franchise company that started the whole thing? It seems like they wouldn't need the franchisee to begin with. It's just a matter of cash, right, to scale the new places. So there's obviously some security in having another person put skin in the game to manage that area or that office. But yeah, I'm curious, the semi absentee franchises sound like they would be very popular, but also like too good to be true, because why would they need the franchisee? Does that make sense?
Well, let's think about this, right? Because I had a brand in my portfolio, publicly traded company, and they had a situation where they actually went ahead and they converted all their corporate stores to franchise owned stores, and they just became better, right? So when I'm talking about semi-absentee, I'm not talking about no time, like a mutual fund or index fund. I'm talking about one where someone else is really managing it and like an owner, they are an owner in the business. So I would argue that that's, especially in an age of low unemployment right now, we're trying hard to find really, really good talent, especially managerial talent. If you can find someone from corporate America that's great at management and putting skin in the game, and as a franchisee, it could be a really good situation for you as a franchisor.
Mm. So then what are the like I don't are there any other myths that you want to cover? I feel like you had said there's like 10, the top 10 or something like that of let's just run through that list of misconceptions.
Sure. So, third one, I would say, I'm not sure if I get to all 10, right? But because I'm not sure if I have them memorized. But I would say another misconception would be people think that there are just a lot of, how would I put it? They think millions of dollars. I mean, McDonald's is a very expensive investment. I have people all day long that are able to start these businesses for less than $175,000, right? So that's really, really interesting. There's financing available as well. On that same token, I would also say the misconception is that if you invest in something small, then it's not going to be scalable. In fact, I would argue, I mean, I had a friend that started a service business here in Houston with one truck, and he was able to build this up into a 8-figure a year business, right? Just from that one truck. So you don't necessarily have to spend a lot of money in order to make a lot of money. I think the other misconception I would have too is that people think that if you invest in some of these, that you kind of need to be a great salesperson. Now, I have some that are very sales heavy, right? No question about it. But I have others that have great marketing systems in place, whether or not it's from a call center. I have certain businesses in my portfolio that it's just not an issue of finding clients. If you start a maid service, even at your training, your phone's going to be ringing off the hook. It becomes more of an operational challenge. Um, so that's another misconception I would say. And I'm not at 10 yet, but I think those are the 5 or 6 that I think are the most important misconceptions in my industry.
And so you mentioned 175,000. Is that like if you were someone that's looking to get into franchising, is it safe to say that having $200,000 gives you a fair number of opportunities, whereas if
Yes,
you're too much below that, you're pretty limited?
for sure. I mean, I have nothing less than 125, but I have a lot between 150 and 200.
Okay. And that's like that'd be 200,000 in cash that I like write a check on day one. Is that how that works?
I'm more talking about a situation where you have access to cash. Maybe it's 50,000 in cash and 150,000 in financing. And might not necessarily be due from day one. You might have some sort of a cushion just to kind of see how things go. But yes, anything 125 to 200, if all you have, if you're not willing to get any money in debt financing, all you have is 20,000 bucks. I don't really have much that I can really help you with.
Got it. Okay. Um, so yeah, what else what else do you like educating people on when it comes to franchising, or I don't know which direction you'd want to take this, but yeah, tell me more about uh, what you love about what you do, or what the transformations that you've seen in working with people.
So what I love most about what I do is for the people that this works out great for. And look, not everyone's right for franchising. I mean, Elon Musk would be a horrific franchisee. He wanted to do everything his own way. But
Mm.
I love it. I love changing people's lives, right? So I have people placements that I've literally made huge changes in their life, which is just an amazing thing to do. And what I would say also is it's not only for everyone about dollars and cents. A lot of it's about freedom. And what I mean by freedom, I'm not talking about hanging out on a beach, although that could be part of it, but it's more like working on your own terms, being able to go to your son or daughter's baseball game, being able to go on that vacation, not having to be on an oil rig 3 out of 4 weeks per month, right? Just that's been really, really powerful. And other thing that I like too is the fact that I'm getting people to kind of think about things in a different way. I love when I give 3 brands that are different to my candidates. And they say to me, Adam, I didn't really think about this one, but I'm really glad you did because this really was something that really fits the right characteristics of the franchise for me that I otherwise wouldn't have thought of before.
Interesting. Uh, yeah. So I could definitely agree with what makes someone a good or bad franchisee, following systems or versus in wanting to invent your own. What other are like some, like if someone is listening to this and they're like, yeah, I've kind of always thought about that, like starting a franchise, what other things would you say you should ask yourself as kind of like a litmus test on, does it make sense to pursue this more or not? And now, a quick word from our sponsor, which is Boolean Review. Boolean is a review software that my wife and I own, and we sell this software to home service businesses. So I know there are many different people that listen to this podcast, but if you know someone, an electrician, an HVAC business, a painting company, maybe a coffee stand, someone that is providing service to customers and get found online by customers, we would love to talk to them. This is a review software that is the highest converting review software in the home service space in particular. And if you're wondering what that means, if you have 100 clients in your business, the typical business gets between 1 to 2% of those customers. So for every 100, they would get one person or two people to leave them a review on Google. Other review softwares get between 3 and 5%, and the Boolean review software gets 20% of your customers to leave you Google reviews. And these are fantastic Google reviews with lots of words, keywords that are going to help with SEO, pictures, stories, the names of your employees. So if you want to learn more, check out booleanreview.com. And now back to the episode.
Chris, I think the number one thing is, do you really have the time for this? Right? Because look, people have busy jobs and spouses have busy jobs too. And even if something is part time or with managers, you still need to spend time, especially at the beginning. And some people just aren't in the right time in their life to do something like this. Um, the other thing too is there's got to be a why, whatever that why is. And I hear a lot of times it might be something related to their family and legacy, or maybe they want to impact, maybe they just want to do something. They always want to start something, and maybe they're in their 40s or 50s and it's like, oh my gosh, if I don't do this now, I can't do this. Maybe they've actually been laid off and they're 50 something years old and they still have more gas in the tank, but because of ageism, people just aren't really giving them much interest in the job market. So there are all these different whys, but if someone has no why at all, they don't typically invest because they don't really have a reason to invest.
Yeah, I'm thinking that it's not quite as difficult as starting a business from scratch, but I would assume that it's a if you have that mindset, you'll do well if that's what your expectations are, because it'll be a little bit easier.
Yeah, I mean, it's starting a business with training wheels, right? I mean, the successful matches I've made, what they tell me is they say, "Hey, I'm so excited because Adam, you found me a great system that has a great brand, but they also have great processes." It's a situation where I'm able to save time that I otherwise would have spent if I were to start this thing from scratch.
Mm. Um, and the why I also think is interesting. Just obviously, uh, if it's like, what would be some examples of some bad whys that you've heard of that are like, not sure that's going to get you through the tough times?
That's a great one about bad wise. Um, huh. You know what? I don't necessarily hear bad whys. I just don't hear anything, right? Like it's just like, okay, why do you want to do this? Because I want to make some more money, or um, I like a challenge, or the stock market has gone down this year, or whatever. I have all this money. I don't know what to do with it. I don't have any time, but I have all this money. I got to figure out something to do with this investment.
Mm. Tell me more about that.
So, I mean, look, I have people that are some people that are just very sophisticated, wealthy investors, right? But they don't necessarily have a desire to start something. It might be interesting. You hear something about, frankly, you hear about NFL players, right? And you see it on 30 for 30 with all these people have gone broke and they just maybe not a great franchisee because they just don't, we're looking for people that can handle a business as well, either as an owner that's semi-absentee or someone that's an operator as well, right? So if you're just kind of looking to put money somewhere, put it in an index fund or something like that.
Mm. So, what are you mentioned something about multi-unit franchises? what is the multi, or what is the unit piece? Is that like meaning multiple buildings or multiple locations, or what does that mean?
One of the things that I coach all of my candidates to is to ask themselves how you scale a business, right? So if you buy a non brick and mortar service business, you might scale it by getting one more van. If you're looking to scale an actual brick and mortar retail business, the way that you scale it is by opening additional units. And that when we talk to a multi unit owner, it might be someone that has economies of scale and are able to replicate that one unit and have 5 or 10 or 20 units open.
So the multi-unit, it means like it could be a unit as a building, or it could be a unit as a vehicle, a truck, a crew. That's what you mean by multi-unit. Is that correct?
So by multi-unit, we typically are referring to brick and mortar retail franchisees, meaning per store, but you can still scale as a non brick and mortar franchisee, and that term would be multi-territory, or you could call it multi-truck. But typically, units are storefronts that are open in the franchising world.
Okay. So the advantages and disadvantages of pursuing a multi-unit franchise versus a non-multi-unit.
And my question for you is: this only brick and mortar, or is this both brick and mortar and non brick and mortar to scale them?
I guess I would say it's the what are the advantages and disadvantages of brick and mortar businesses versus non?
Let's talk about that because my business has actually pivoted from being 80% brick and mortar to being about 80% non brick and mortar recently. And
Mm.
so the advantages of brick and mortar are you have just marketing that's just kind of there. Someone's driving by and they see your storefront, whether that's a restaurant or a gym, and they can. It's like free advertising. I have a friend that's a Ben and Jerry's franchisee, and he said, I really don't make much money out of this specific location, but I like the fact that people can see my Ben and Jerry's storefront and sign on this major road in Houston. Right, so that's an advantage right there, built-in marketing. The other thing I would say is that for brick and mortar, you can potentially scale it as well. But the disadvantages of brick and mortar is that you typically have to sign a 10-year lease, and it's got to be under your name and it's got to be guaranteed. And it's a lease that really is you're on the hook, right? No matter what happens, right? So a lot of people get scared about that. And also the way how long it takes to start up. So you might have a great concept, but I'd coach my candidates to wait 6 months, 9 months, a year in order to find that perfect location. So that's also a challenge to wait when you're actually starting. Now you might have pre-sales, and that might help ease the blow. But if you need to start a quick ramp up, that doesn't happen as much with the brick and mortar. Non brick and mortar businesses, you're able to start up more quickly. You don't have to have a lease, and what I would say also about the non brick and mortar business is that sometimes it might be harder to scale, just depending on your situation, or to run it on the side. You need to, it's a different type of mindset depending on what that business is, how scalability happens.
Mm. Yeah, I'm thinking the uh, pot or what's the? Isn't there another word for not a franchise? It's similar to a franchise, but franchise means that it's owned and operated by an independent person, right? And then there's another term for a type of business that's not. What would that be?
I think it might be an affiliate company, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. So how many different would you say there's just like corporate companies, which is like I'm assuming Fred Meyer's or something like that. Those are just or Kroger, like that's just a corporate owned thing. And then there's McDonald's franchise, Jimmy John's. I assume those are all franchises. Um, but then what other types of businesses are there besides that? What is an affiliate, and is there a fourth or other options?
Great question. I don't know much about. Obviously, there are smaller stores that are regional stores. You might start up as an entrepreneur, a local entrepreneur. I don't know much about the affiliate structure. Um, Frankly, lots of times the reason why people are trying to have the affiliate structure is it's a way for them to kind of sidestep different franchise rules and regulations in certain states. So my understanding of the affiliate structure is it typically is a franchise-like thing in which they're trying to get away from some of the regulations related to franchising as an owner.
Yeah. So are you familiar with the franchise Shoot 360? I think it's called.
I'm not.
I think that's the name. It's basically like a basketball, like shooting and dribbling, like workout facility. It's got a bunch of tech and cameras and stuff. Anyways, that's been. I'm a basketball fan. I'm like, oh, that'd be so cool to open up something that's like that. Um, that's just like would be fun and also passionate about. My kids would use someday. But what are some examples of sport franchises that you're familiar with, or like gym type of franchises?
So many. That's an important piece of the franchising world. I mean, everyone's heard of Orange Theory, right? My wife and I go on a regular basis.
And
It's
that's
really
a franchise.
yes, it is. It's really revolutionized boutique fitness, and it's an amazing workout in general. I would say there are kids related franchises. If you look at, I mean, look, it's just important to teach kids how to swim. So if you look at kids related swim franchises, those exist, and you have other things that are related to children. Maybe it's related to art for kids, or um, things related to just all these different interesting things related to sports. That's definitely part of the whole franchising space. That's definitely one important vertical.
What's the craziest franchise that you've seen or aware of that's just like people would never imagine that exists, or that's a franchise that you could start?
I'm so glad you asked this, Chris, because there actually is a franchise that's not in my inventory, but I'd heard about it. Just kind of made me laugh. It's called Goose Chasers. They literally go to different golf courses with dogs and they chase geese off of the courses.
Really?
Yes,
That and that seems impossible. That's funny. Um, any other ones?
that's the one that really comes to mind.
Okay. Um, any other yeah, things to share in regards to anything in the franchise world?
I just think what I would say about the franchising world is the other misconception, the biggest misconception is just how many different business models there are. It's just kind of like you don't know what other cars there are until you drive a certain model of a car. And ever since I've been in this industry, I've kind of been blown away at all these things that are franchised. Things such as a coffee shop that's franchised, right? A gym that I work out at. Once you kind of look under the hood, you just find how many different industries. I mean, I think it's like some crazy amount, 5 or 10% of the U.S. economy is franchised.
Wow, that is insane. Um, yeah, that's interesting. So, what books do you recommend? I always ask everyone for 3 book recommendations.
So for me, I think that I'm going to give some varied ones because I love reading. I'm a big reader. Just read this amazing book called After Power, and it's by Jared Cohen. And it actually talks about, or it's called Life After Power by Jared Cohen. I just turned 50 this year, and some might say I'm over the hill or whatever it might be. But the point is that I'm just very interested in people that have second acts in their life. And so he's talking about different presidents and just really fascinating going through all these different presidents, all the way from Thomas Jefferson to John Quincy Adams to Grover Cleveland, right? Just people that are just fascinating, even George W. Bush, about not how they were as president, but the people that are more adept at kind of adapting to the second life that they may have. And many of my candidates, frankly, are people that are kind of on their second act, right? So just kind of seeing how people adapt to Act Two is fascinating, and I thought the book was really, really well written. Other book that I want to recommend is a book called The E Myth. It's by Gerber. It's one of the classics in the franchising world. And the interesting thing about the E Myth is it's kind of, and he didn't mean for this to be, but it's kind of the case for franchising. And the reason why is it's a kind of thing where he's talking about if you start something on your own, you're really underestimating how important process is. Whereas when you have a franchise business, he doesn't talk about this in the book as much, but you have this process and kind of talks about how important that is. Because if you're starting on your own without any process, not only you're the salesperson, you're the accountant, you're the secretary. So that's a fascinating one as well. I'm going to also go with something called rocket fuel. That really changed how I thought about different organizations, including my own. Just how every business needs to have a integrator and a visionary, and very few people have both of them. In fact, you can actually take a test to see which one of those you are. And it just makes a lot of sense to kind of do self-reflection. Which things are your positivities? Meaning, do you have that visionary mindset? Are you more of the integrator? And if not, how do you adapt for that in your business? I think that's a really good one as well.
Yeah, the E-Myth is the one that I read a while ago. I feel like, don't they have several versions of that?
Yes.
Is there one that is just the original one is the one you like?
I think he might have passed away, but just the whole message of this about how important process and system is kind of what I live every day.
And what was the franchise that you ran?
It was called Vanguard Cleaning. It was an office
And
cleaning
you just
master
did, it was
franchise.
just that one, and then you had the territory and hired more franchisees underneath you?
That's correct.
And did you have a career before going into that?
I did. I owned a couple of IT firms in Europe, in Poland, and I also still have a real estate investment company here in Houston.
Okay. Awesome. And do you have a movie recommendation for us?
So, look, I mean, let's talk about if you let me give anything of the past 10 years or so. I loved Argo. I thought Argo was like just lots of stuff going on and suspense. I know that was a long time ago. I recently saw the new movie with Scarlett Johansson and I with my wife, and I thought that was a really good one. I thought that was interesting. The one about I'm gonna have to take. I think it's Take Me to the Moon.
Take Me to the Moon. Yep, Scarlett Johansson, 2024. That's what you said. That's another good one.
Yeah, it's, if someone's looking for something more timely, not 10 years old.
Yeah, yeah, cool. And how do you recommend that people get in touch if they want to connect?
Best way to kind of see if we're fit for each other would be to reach out at on my calendar for a free 15-minute chat at franchiseadam.com. Alternatively, you can check out my website at franchisecoach.net.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come on today, Adam, and share some knowledge about franchising. It's something that's always intrigued me, and I know that I've had conversations with people that wonder the same thing. Like, how do you even get into this? And you seem like the perfect vehicle to help people navigate the next steps and try and make a good decision on which one to tie their next 5 to 10 years of their life to.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you so much for listening. My name is Chris Kiefer, and my mission is to champion the relentless pursuit of purpose. And what that means to me is to be an example, a champion, someone that is in the trenches, working and showing and winning and trying and failing in how to pursue a deeper and more meaningful life with the people that I love, with my kids, with my friends, with our family, and also just be a champion and example of entrepreneurship and following my passion and doing what I believe I'm called to on this earth. And so if that inspires you in some way, please share this episode. If you want, like, subscribe, share, whatever, do all the stuff. It means the world to me to get this message and get these guests that I have out there. And if you're interested in any of the book recommendations or looking up other episodes of the movie list, you can visit my website, chriskiefer.com, for all the details on the show. And also check out the Boolean review software, as well as the Boolean automation consulting company that I own for home service businesses. So thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next episode.